Hi, welcome to the 18th season of the Productized podcast. My name is Pedro Ganço, and I'm hosting today's episode. We're diving deep into product challenges and emerging opportunities. And today, I have a pleasure of speaking with Amir Rezaei. He's a dynamic product leader with a strong technical background and over 4 years of experience in FinTech and Web3. Currently, a senior product manager at Bondax, Amir has played a key role in building innovative financial products, including the crypto app, one of the oldest in the space, which has surpassed 5 million of downloads. He's an expert in Agile product development, AI, Web3 technology, and he's passionate about making complex financial concepts more accessible. Amir is also the host of the Product Founder podcast, where he dives deep into the minds of top product leaders and entrepreneurs. So, Amir, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have you today with us, given all your expertise, both in the Web3 space and now also having your own spot on the podcast. But before we go into those areas, I want to start light with two fun questions. So the first one I have for you is, what's the most unusual or interesting thing that people cannot find about you online?
Absolutely. So I'm actually a Taekwondo player. I did Taekwondo for like 6, 7 years and I'm black belt. So that's something a lot of people don't really think about me like that.
Now it is online for the first
Now
time.
it's online.
Now it's
Yes,
online.
yes.
And the other one that I have for you is, if you never stumbles in product management, what do you foresee would be doing right now?
I would be a salesperson, but one
Really?
of these advanced salesperson, not going door to door, but using these advanced funnels, which will get the data and then we will do some crazy distributions.
It's actually very handy for product managers, have this sales side, which is not that often one finds. And now maybe we can jump a bit into the journey. Recently, you interviewed in your podcast André Marquet. You have been interviewing lots of product leaders, but still, for the one or two folks that still don't know about you, who is Amir? Tell us a bit about your journey from starting as a software developer, now in product management. Who is Amir?
Yeah, absolutely. So I became an Android developer when I was 15. I worked at Samsung for 1 or 2 years. That time, the company wanted to become more sustainable, so it wanted to build an app which replaces the brochures. So I worked on that for a while. I always loved building as a kid, building toys, building different things. And in the whole digital world, I always find it super fascinating that I could build an app and then millions of people will use it. And then I will press a button and it will send them a notification. I found it like super impactful. Now we take it for granted. Now it became normal, right? But if we go back, talking about 2014, that's like the time Android 4 was out, Android 4, KitKat. Still, we had Sony Ericsson phones. So it's almost a decade now, more than a decade. But then I slowly transitioned to understanding more about backend infrastructure, Node.js, MongoDB around 2017, 18. These were like the latest technologies of that time. So I was definitely a geek and a nerd. I wanted to try out all these latest technologies. Because 6 to 9 months, me and a couple of our friends, we built a whole infrastructure around e-commerce using a MongoDB and then Node.js, and we built the both mobile apps, Android and iOS and web and everything. It was amazing experience. And those were slowly the points that I was starting to feel like, I'm doing much more than just engineering, like overseeing a product, overseeing a vision, and how can we drive the revenues and everything? What are the tips and tactics that we can use to increase the conversion rate on an e-commerce platform? So we sold that to someone, by the way. But then slowly, when the time passed by, I started to not like engineering anymore because I started to feel like I can do much better. I can do much more, not better, but I can do much more if I do something else. And I didn't know what the hell is a product management. That's the funny thing. I had no idea what is the role, and I had no one around me that was a PM that I could actually go and ask them. So I went online, started searching, a lot of searching. And one of the platforms that I learned a lot over the course of years was Udemy. So I went on Udemy, I searched product management. First course, which was the most sold, I would say, I purchased it and I started watching it. And halfway through it, I was like, you know what? I'm doing half of these stuff. This.
Maybe I am a product manager.
I mean, I am a product manager, but the challenge was how can I convince the companies I'm a product manager? That's the hardest part. So I was pretty young. And what's funny is a lot of people have career transition when they're older.
Yeah.
30, 40, 50. I had it when I was 19. It was so hard to go into a company. I was already a young Android developer, but now I want to transition to PM. So that was pretty funny. And actually, it was now it sounds funny, but those days and
They were
years
not
were
so funny.
actually no, 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 no.
Those
They were actually,
condescending looks you got.
yeah, yeah. It was just super difficult, and it was literally like swimming against the river, like a very powerful river. And there's all these companies that if you would say, I want to become a product manager, their first question is like, you're a young guy. And then I'm not sure if you really have enough experience to be a PM, are you sure? And yeah, that was so hard to convince them. But again, I continued building products which were high class and testing everything about the product management world on the softwares that I would build. And then over a period of time, my portfolio was strong enough that I could go to a company and say, hey, look, I was a product manager here. But I was a founder here actually. But look, everything I did as a product, end-to-end ownership, managing different stakeholders, this reach this much revenue, this much downloads. So all these techniques and things. So that's a little bit about Amir and the background story.
Super fascinating. So now if you were not a product manager, you'd be in sales. You also started as a software developer. So you actually have the skills to actually build products. That's, I would say, very straightforward, a very broad PM career you had. And also, I saw that you transitioned through lots of different companies. But one thing that you did not mention is that now you have a podcast as well. So now I have
Yes.
a challenging question for you. If you had to pick one, which one gives you more drive? Which one makes you more excited? Work on your podcast, interviewing product people, or working as a product individual contributor?
I really cannot answer this question. I know someone else also asked me, would you do podcasting or doing product management? But I see them very similar to one another. So both have a very creative work. If we really go to the essence of product management, is not project management. We are not
Mhm.
moving tasks, like having a vision, a creative work. And so over there, we are building products for users, like enhancing the experience. Same thing we are doing as a podcaster.
There's
We
still a
have our
go-to-market.
listeners.
There's still a
Yeah,
persona listening to you.
exactly, exactly. We have our listeners and we are creating a great experience for our listeners. You're now doing a great job. Look at the environment you have back there. Look at your headphone. Your audio is perfect. And so this is a great experience. My mic is the same. So whoever now would listen to this episode, both of us are having a very good gadgets and gears. So
You
I
see
can't
it
really,
is not one or the other. You still
yeah,
see both
yeah,
fascinating.
very much close to one another.
Super cool. During today's conversation, I really want to go through probably two main topics. One, I want to really leverage your background in the Web3 space. We had lots of guests before, but I think your profile is really unique in the FinTech Web3 space. So I really want to give this perspective to the audience that's listening to us. And then I want to see your insights on podcasts and the future of product later in the show. So let's kickstart the Web3 part. So you work in half a dozen companies, many different industries. Recently, you are at Bondex, kind of a LinkedIn over blockchain, kind of a professional network with incentives on blockchain. For people that are not aware of this, what are the main differences between being a product manager in the Web2 space or the Web3 space?
I think, first of all, there's a lot we can discuss here, but big differences are still in the Web3 space, even though we are now almost 2 decades, and still there's a lot of gray areas. There's a lot of
Mhm.
unclarity. You can build a product, it will work perfectly in Asia, but the people in the EU, if they use it, your EU will come after you and put you in a jail. That's
The
simple.
same product.
Yeah, same product or same as US. Like if the people around US will start using your product, you will be in serious issues. And what's also crazy is It's not a regional thing. It's also a state thing. So you might have a product with a feature which is allowed in California, but it's not allowed in Texas. So your head as a product manager is exploding. But you have to understand that blockchain is a very advanced technology. And it's not here to take over the financial world or anything. It's just a technology which will help the traditional finance to expand much faster and go beyond this. Now, where the challenge is just bringing those users and educating. So we have a very advanced tool and we have a lot of users which they need this tool. But the user experience in the middle is still far from behind. Let's say if you want to, now it's easier, but let's go back a couple years back. Let's go 6, 7, 8 years ago. If you wanted to buy Bitcoin, you had to make a wallet, hard wallet, and like creating a hard wallet required you to probably install some shady softwares on your PC, which and a few people would do it, and then you would be dealing with your private keys. And basically, private keys are keys that allows you to have access to that wallet for the listeners, and who only you would have access to that money. It's not like you put the money in the bank and the bank and so many other people can access it, like the state and everything. But this is only yours. So if you pass away, you die, and no one knows your private wallet, it's gone. It's that thing is on the blockchain and you lose the ownership. So the uncertainty in Web3 is crazy. Now, let's go back a couple months back, 2 months ago or 3 months ago, when Biden was president. For 4 years, blockchain and crypto was in a very bad spot. It was actually in a good spot because we got a lot of the ETF from
Approvals, yeah.
BlackRock approved. Exactly. So this is good, but still
Some
the
shady
government
areas in the regulation.
exactly. Government was not super friendly. Now Trump came and he started a meme coin, and then his wife started the meme coin, and then they have World Financial Liberty something. I forgot, but I think it's an institute which is being ran by family of Trump, and now they're talking about U.S. having Bitcoin as a treasury, so things immediately changed. Now this is something which is in crypto. There are trends, massive hypes. You have to ride those hypes, and those are temporary. So you have to ride them, but at the same time, you need to understand that it's gonna stop at some certain point. So you gotta jump to the next wave, but at the same time, you need to stay very close to your vision. So there's a period of time meme coins are like the hottest. So you can take that, you can leverage that. Let's say if you're an exchange, you can start to have a lot of meme coins listed on your platform because those are now the highest volume trading. But then don't forget that you as an exchange, you need to continue building up your experience, not just focusing on listing meme coins. Because after a few months, meme coins are not going to be trendy anymore and you lost your focus. So I think in the Web3 space, this is something you have to really focus the long vision and what is trending now. So I don't know for the listeners how much people know about Bitcoin halving, but this is also super fascinating things. Crypto has cycles. There's 4-year cycles. So now, still to this day, Bitcoin is moving the whole crypto industry. You know why these are not maybe directly related to your question, but you need to understand these to understand the crypto market better. Without these, you will not understand how this market is working. So then you can build a product on these markets, right? For these users.
Yes, because for a product manager that needs to navigate all these messy waters, they need to understand maybe what you're saying. There are these long-term visions that you can implement in your products, but still you need to consider these hypes that came, just depending on how the legislation at the moment is favor or against it. Like Biden administration, a bit against it with Gary Gensler in the SEC. Now with Trump, probably a bit more favor towards this Web3 space, but then you need to still understand that this probably is a hype and you need to consider in 4 years' time, your roadmaps may totally change. So I totally understand what you're saying and don't want to cut you off.
Definitely.
Please continue. What do you see are these differences between that Web2 and Web3 for product managers?
Absolutely. So again, going back to these cycles. So in crypto, we have these 4-year cycles. What happens is the way Bitcoin is functioning, I don't want to make it overcomplicated, just want to keep it as simple as possible. So Bitcoin is a de-inflationary asset. What it means is like US dollar can be printed as much as the US government wants. Bitcoin has a limited amount of supply. So there are miners on the platform, these computers with GPUs, which are keeping the blockchain, let's say, secure. And they are actually the machines that are keeping all the transaction through all these wallets and everything happen. Because of that, they are getting a reward. And each 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that is being distributed to all these miners gets divided by half. Means, let's say, 2008-9, when Bitcoin was introduced, let's say for every block, let's say people used to get 100 and then became 50 and then became 25 and
25,
then became
12 and a
12 and a
half.
half. And then it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So what happens is there's the
Shrink of
demand.
supply and
Exactly, in supply. So the more demand there is, the less of it is actually out there. And a lot of the Bitcoin to this day, some of it is now, I would say, dead wallets. Again, someone had Bitcoin, but maybe they passed away. No one in the family knows the private key. So that amount of Bitcoin
it's
is
gone
on the
forever.
blockchain is gone forever. So now we have a very small portion of this left. So back to why Web3 is so different. You have this 4-year cycle. In this 4-year cycle, we call it bull run. Market goes insane. A lot of these coins start to go up there, and then like you're a multi-trillion-dollar company, and then you're not. So you need to think about it that when you build a product, is it sustainable for this and next bull run? Or this is a trend like NFTs back in 2021. NFTs were like all over the place, it's gonna be next big thing. Market, like the value of NFTs drops by 99.99%. So the application of it is still there, and it's quite good actually. But those NFTs, the Bored Ape and all those, they don't have any more values.
It
So
was a massive market. NFT in the previous cycle. Lots of startups and companies started working around this hype. So there was
mm,
actually a lot of product managers and products being built just to take advantage of the trend. And now
yeah,
it's NFTs. But
yeah,
like I said, these could be very short-term cycles. Your product may last 4 years, and maybe a few will last the decade.
exactly. So what we are trying to do at Bondex is just bridging these Web 2 and Web 3. And something that goes sometimes wrong in the whole Web 3 community is like these people who are obsessed with Web 3 and they're like Web 3 forever. But it's not gonna work. Like you need that bridge. You need to have Web 2 with the tools of Web 3. Like this decentralization is just so amazing that imagine now for this podcast of mine, we have a team of 5 people. And one of my team member is in Indonesia. I cannot transfer money from Europe to Indonesia that easily. It costs me so much. But one thing that I can do, I can ask him, do you have a USDT wallet on, I don't know, this blockchain or that blockchain? He can say, yes. Can you send me the address? Sure. And then I can send him $10 with probably like 1 cent or 10 cents transfer fee. So you know the company Wise. I really
Mhm.
like Wise. I really like their product mission and everything about it. Their mission is, I believe, instant, convenient, transparent, and free. That's their mission, and that's where they want to go. Now they're kind of in the traditional financial sector. Now, what blockchain is doing and has been doing in the last 5 years is exactly where Wise want to go. So the solution on the blockchain is already solves their problem.
It's a given
What's the
with the blockchain.
Exactly. So what's the problem here is like, again, it's hard to tell my grandmother that, grandma, can you please like install this hard wallet so I can send you like $10 or something? So that's where a lot of
We
the
are still
product
lagging
managers
the
have to
usability.
think. Exactly. And there's a platform called Telegram, which is also one of my favorite products. They have a massive user base. So Telegram already it's a messaging platform, one of the biggest messaging platform out there. So what they already had the user base. So then they were like, okay, we can implement blockchain technology into our app. We can have wallet. People can hold their crypto and they can easily send it to their friends and everything for subscription, for buying some items on the app or everything. So this is where Web 2 is again being integrated with Web 3. And then the result is just great. So Telegram is actually a great example of a successful, it's not a Web3 company, but it's a great success in terms of integrating Web3
This
into the
technology.
product.
And that's fascinating. So the main challenge in your views is not one against the other, but rather still improving the usability so grandma can start using these tools, and also education that existing
Definitely.
products can leverage the technology without going into hypes and scams. And no, is this still a viable technology that we can use to improve the existing traditional products? At Trust Swap, you were also managing a product before BondX, and I read that the crypto app is one of the oldest in this market, and I found crazy because it had like 5 million downloads. This is a massive reach, impacting financial lives of millions of people. I immediately wondered, I actually don't know the answer to this. I'm eager to see your views on it. Do you feel it's possible to apply the same agile principles and the fail fast mindset when we are dealing with such high stakes?
And quick break, did you know this year's Productized conference is a big one? We're celebrating our 10th edition. For a decade, we've been bringing product managers, designers, and innovators together in Lisbon for top-tier insights, interactive workshops, and invaluable networking. This year, it's bigger and better than ever with world-class speakers and special anniversary celebrations. Don't miss your chance to be part of it, October 16th to 17th in Lisbon.
Join us for the big celebration. Tickets are now available at www.productized.co. We hope to meet you there.
So just before answering that question, later I want to provide some context about TrustSwap. TrustSwap is an all-in-one crypto company from token creation, liquidity lock, launchpads, and TrustSwap has multiple products. It's like really a big ecosystem. It also has the crypto app. For me as a product manager, it was one of the best experience I've ever had because we were dealing with multiple products. A lot of the companies, you have a one single product or you have internal products. What was fascinating in TrustSwap, and by the way, the crypto app for listeners who know, the crypto app it was released on Google Play, I believe older than CoinMarketCap. So that's how old the app is. It's really an OG of Web3 from actually not the last cycle, but a cycle before, the cycle of 2017 and 16. One thing I learned at Trust App and working on the crypto app was all these tools out there like Agile. Agile is a tool, right? You as a product manager have to decide which tool can you use to reach what outcome that you want. So when we started to apply agile methodologies more in our product, in our software development cycle, what happened, we started to slow down. So the whole sprint planning, retrospective, these things slowed us down. Multiple calls around, sharing the story point back and forth with the engineer, that slowed us out. But then we were much more organized, but we were not as fast as a start. So you have to decide what works for you as a product manager. So that's what I would say happened there. And also why Crypto App has a great success was because a lot of the users trusted the app very well. It was one of the oldest apps out there, and we always listened to the users, and we always tried to iterate and build features around that. And it's also one of the only crypto trackers which the anonymity is the first priority. The rest are not like that. Like for example, the CoinMarketCap, it's not like that. So you have to create a profile to track your portfolio. With crypto app, you don't need to create a profile to track your portfolio. So this was something a lot of the people in the crypto space really
Enjoyed.
loved it.
Yeah, I'm actually a huge believer of this Web3 space. I worked before in also a very short-term project for a Web3 company. Even personally speaking, I really like what the ecosystem has been evolving. But although I still feel a few years ago, maybe 1 or 2 cycles ago, for the listeners, cycles is like these 4-year cycles that Amir was mentioning. 1 or 2 cycles ago, there was a lot of investment, Lots of companies appeared to work on NFT projects in Web3 space. But now with the AI, I don't feel that same kind of energy and push. What is your feeling on it? Do you still feel there's a lot of opportunities for the Web3 space? Do you see it shrinking? Is still more hype to go? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I love it when I talk about Web2 with a lot of people. They talk about it like it's dead. It's not dead, it's actually there. So 2020, the market cap of the whole crypto space was around 400 to 500 billion dollar. Now, I believe this year or last year reached 3.6 trillion.
Yeah,
So I
that's
see
great.
pretty nice growth there, even though AI was the trend and things like that. So what we need to really understand here is, yes, you don't see it in the news because AI is there, DeepSeek, the Chinese AI model, right?
Takes all the news.
Everything exactly, right? But a lot of these crypto companies behind the scenes, they're working, they're building. During the bear market, 2022, when market dropped, again, for the folks listening, we had exchange called FTX, which was massive. And this turned
Disaster.
out to be a scam, right? So that was like a vacuum. It sucked the whole market to itself. Bitcoin used to be 64,000, 16, right? So everyone again said, oh, crypto's dead, things like that. From 16, it reached months ago or something to, I believe, and $7,000. So when you think about is the crypto hype there and things like that, it just 5x'd in this 3 to 4 years. How many companies in the S&P 500 goes 5x, 6x, right? And this is, we're talking about Bitcoin because the other coins usually grow much more. Something like Solana had a better increase than that. So this is also something to really consider.
I love that. So when you look at the actual numbers, Web3 is still growing. Just look at the numbers of the market cap we have, the money involved in this space. What I believe it gives so bad name to it is what goes out to the news is always the scams. Because it's such an early market, there's always people taking advantage of it, fooling one another. So it's very easy for people to get scammed in these spaces, which again works against the education we were talking about. So this is a
Absolutely.
counterproductive thing because there's also lots of bad folks acting on this space.
Also, I would like to add something about the RWAs, which is another exciting thing, real world assets, right? So let's say there are actually companies in Switzerland and Romania, and this is, by the way, it's all legal within European Union. You want to build a building and you would like to gather investment to build this building. Usually in the traditional way, someone needs to purchase a flat, like one of the flats, or purchase it with two people, something like it, like 50-50%, right? But with the RWA, what it means is, again, with the NFTs, the technology is the NFTs, but it's actually where it's supposed to be used, not the pictures of the gorillas and stuff. So what happens is you fractionalize that building worth $1 million. You fractionalize it to 1 million of NFT tokens, and people sign a contract and they buy, let's say, 5 of those NFT tokens, which equals like the value of like $5, right?
The same equity
And
in the real world
same
asset.
equity. Exactly, on the blockchain. And now that's yours forever, right? And in the next few years, you can sell that when, let's say, the building value increases and things like that. So this is a great opportunity that people who want to invest in something, you don't need to purchase the whole thing. You can you can purchase a fraction of it. And this is what I really like in the crypto space. You don't need to buy one Bitcoin, which is $100,000. You can buy like 0.00001% of the Bitcoin. So this is another technology, which is, this is something that we could use on the blockchain.
Yeah, lots of different business models that will appear out of that simple concept that you just shared. And also, there's lots of miseducation on the space. People are not even aware that in the past 14 years, I guess, 11 out of 14, Bitcoin was actually the best asset to invest in. But on the other side, on the 3 other years that it was not the best, it was probably the worst. So volatility is really, really crazy in the space. that deters lots of people to go into the space. They usually go very late in the cycles. In that they have a very bad experience. The first contact in crypto, they leave it forever with those cars. But that's a past. I think that we are in a journey. Some people will get it, some people get it later. There's always the laggard distributions, the early adopters. And I also agree with you. There's a lot of opportunities in the Web3 space, lots of things to do, and we'll see how it goes. Apparently, and looking to the recent Trump administration, regulation in US seems to be very favorable on welcoming this digital asset world. So, and what other trends excite you the most? We had NFTs a few cycles ago. What do you foresee this Web3 space bringing us in the future?
I believe the stable coins are going to become more powerful and common. Just for the listeners, I think if I want to simplify it, really, we have Bitcoin, we have altcoin, which is the rest of the market, and then we have the stable coins. Stable coins are literally like USD dollar on blockchain. It's 1-to-1. Instead of holding US dollar as a cash or in your bank, you can hold
Digital token
100.
equivalent pegged to the dollar.
Exactly. And now Tether is, I believe, I just don't want to say wrong numbers, but I checked, it's $500 billion company. And I know they're a team of 30 or 40 people. So that's crazy. I read somewhere that they're one of the most
profitable per employee.
Exactly. It's them and it's OnlyFans. These are the two ones, which is super interesting for me. So UAE now wants to have a digital currency. EU wants to have a digital currency like Euro on blockchain. PayPal, all these companies we are naming, a couple years ago, they would tell crypto is a scam. BlackRock would say, BlackRock CEO, there's a lot of code you can search online. It would say Bitcoin doesn't have any value. Right now, BlackRock, with all those ETFs, is one of the biggest shareholders of all these Bitcoins. So
with
this
$11 trillion
exactly.
as clients.
Exactly.
If only 10%, 5% of them allocate to do immediately double or triple the market cap of Bitcoin. That is even crazy to think about it. And people are not even aware for it. But I really want to go through the second part of this conversation. We're going to talk about your podcast and the future product, but I just want to give you another questions on this Web3 space because you're very expertise on this area. And probably for the benefit of people still working in Web2, traditional product manager, let's call it that way, how can they start preparing to shift towards this Web3 space? Any recommendations you would give for a product manager that wants to start in the blockchain technology world?
So I would say, first of all, whatever you know about the traditional finance, just throw that to the side. Because when you enter Web3, things are insane. It's also extremely volatile. So get ready for ups and downs that you have never seen before. So when the S&P 500 goes down by 5% and everyone is freaking out, that's that's an hour or that's like a minute.
That's a startup on steroids working in the Web3 space.
Exactly. But I would say just start to a little bit read about blockchain and just around which companies are operating in blockchain. And exchanges are very important, centralized and decentralized. Little bit try to understand about the technology behind it. You really don't have to go through to become an extremely technical person working on the protocols and the bridges. Don't do that. Just try to really understand why it's working and what are the trends. It's a quite a geeky world. Understand what are the meme coins, understand what was the hypes, understand the Bitcoin halving, just different technologies on the blockchain. And if you love chaos and uncertainty, this is the place you should enter. That is just amazing. And to be fair, crypto has been becoming much and much more mature and evolved over the past year. So we had the cycle 2017-16, and then we had the cycle 2020-21, and now we have the institutes. As I said, these are big institutes like BlackRock. They have ETFs, and then bigger institutes are buying crypto from them. So this is a huge moment. The president of the United States has a meme coin on a blockchain. His family holds multiple different blockchains, exactly like Ethereum. So it's a very exciting time, And not everything is on AI, so there's also some interesting stuff happening in Web3.
Let's shift gears a bit now and talk about your own podcast. You're the founder of the Product Founder podcast, and I want to go a little bit into that. So when I was going to do my own research about you to prepare for today's conversation, I stumbled on an interview you had with Mate, the CEO of ProdCamp, and I found a very interesting concept you shared with him. How you spotted some of the latest trends, and you were saying there was a time when everyone wanted to be a founder. So we had a massive burst of founders. Then YouTubers, everyone had a YouTube channel of their own. Then a TikToker, and now you see a trend, a growing trend for podcasts. And here we are, on a Productized podcast, talking with a podcast host as well. What led you to start this project?
So one thing I noticed, again, going back to 2000. 19, 20, when I wanted to transition to product, I always felt product is this perfect role and everyone is doing it so perfectly.
Everyone is great. Yeah.
Everyone's so great and they should be put on a museum so other people
Everyone
can
knows
come
what
and
they're doing.
study them. Yeah. But then when I started to really work at multiple company, also I didn't put on my LinkedIn, but I did a lot of consultation as well. So I could go there, enter like a big company, and they were all like shiny and everything. There was all like fancy news about them on the internet, and everyone was like dying to go and work there. And I used to look at their metrics, team structure, and things like that. Then I was like,
no one has a
this
clue.
doesn't seem right. No, it's like, so it's actually pretty bad. It looks nice. And also, I noticed there's a lot of frustration from a lot of product people that like the imposter syndrome, not good enough, I'm doing it wrong. There are some books out there which are written by amazing authors, but in a perfect world condition, like how it should be if it could be like that.
And you are not a product manager if you don't do this.
Exactly. So then I was like, you know what? That's the problem. You don't have unscripted conversations around on the product world. And I used to I attend so many events all the time. And I always had good conversation with a lot of people. And I could feel like these are not one-on-one conversations. These are conversations that could benefit a lot of other people. So then I was like, okay, let me start to see if I could have the podcast. There's a lot of metrics that 90% of the podcasts don't make over 3 episodes. So I wanted to make sure I'm not in that.
The moment you already
metrics.
surpassed that metric.
Yeah,
I see that you're already above 50 videos or so in YouTube.
Yeah. We are now, I believe, 15 to 16 episodes. I actually don't count the episodes. My team does, because when they want to refer to an episode, they say the number. I know the guest. I say the guest name, for example, this guy or that episode. So yeah, that was actually the reason I started this podcast. I wanted to have unscripted conversation, how amazing products are being built, and kind of a little bit show that product people are not flawless. It's just there are some,
On the contrary,
mistake. Yeah, it's happening back there, and just having a very friendly conversation that they could share things that they want to share if they have any constraints about something. So that was basically the reason. And I always wanted to talk with amazing people. So what I said also on Matei's podcast, podcasting is not something you should start. I'm not a fan of this idea of I know we are doing it, but I don't recommend
you don't
it
recommend. You
to
don't
people.
recommend.
Nah. It's something, it would take a very long time. You guys are now on season 18. How long you guys have been doing this? So for me now, I'm on 5 to 6 months in. And it requires so much energy and time and discipline. You record the episode, you edit it, you release it. You record it, edit it, you release it. You're constantly doing this. So I would suggest to everyone who's listening and thinking about podcasting, start to record yourself 20, 30 short clips. If you can post, let's say, 2-3 short clips per week, if you really can do it, then after a 1 month or 2, then think about starting the podcast. Because
it's a marathon.
You might put the stakes so high with the podcasting, and you start and you do a great job, and you're like, I have a great guest, I'm doing a great interview, and you push it out there, and then your views are going to be 10, and then you're immediately going to be like, why this not working?
I see this other guy the other day called Daniel Priestley. He's actually commenting one thing that I found very interesting. He was saying that he looks at the election in the US to find about what will be the marketing trends for the upcoming years. And you noticed the presidential elections is actually a very perfect place to spot it. And I saw you mentioning the same idea or similar idea in that podcast excuse my sass, which was very interesting. There was a presidential election where one started using TV over radio, and that guy got the job. And then there was another, Obama started social media campaigns, and then after he won, everyone in marketing was using meta ads and social impacts. And then I briefly spotted that one thing that Trump did very differently than Kamala, it was long format and scripted podcasts, where Kamala did only a few and 7-minute clips or something. And the other one was Joe Rogan, 1 hour conversations and scripted. And I feel that in this world of fake news, no one knows anything. People are now wanting to, okay, who is Amir? Let me listen to him for 1 hour. And I get the feeling of, do I like him? What are his ideas? And you share a similar idea. So I still feel that there's a long way to go for podcasts, and wishing you the best
Definitely.
for yours.
Yeah,
You share the
this is
same views.
something. Yeah, I shared with Matei that I think what happened was after the election and Trump going through all these podcasts, I personally felt like a sudden jump of the number of the podcasts were out there. I suddenly saw like 20 more podcasts in the product space. I was like, where are these coming from? And the competition is getting tighter. So, and then I was 100% certain, even when he was going through all those, I knew that mainstream media is becoming weaker and weaker and weaker because the guy is reading a teleprompter, right? He can smile and act, but me and you you cannot continue fake acting for like 2 hours. Your brain started to give up. Some of these podcasts are super long. They're like 2-3 hours, and then you just go
Go with the flow, and then you
go with
get
the
to see
flow.
your natural
Exactly.
face. Yeah.
Exactly. And when Trump went to all these different podcasts, all these different podcasts were very different. One was famous for being more comedic, one was more political, one was more about, let's say, tech. And they were asking different points of view from him, and people start to see him more as a human. And that was super interesting.
Now, probably this will dictate the next marketing years in the future. So, what have been the main takeaways you got? You've already interviewed a lot of guests. Have you got any patterns or any things that you say, after I start this podcast, these are the main takeaways that I see it resonates with most product managers?
I don't know when you say takeaways in terms of, you said about product. One thing I would say as a takeaway of podcasts, which is so funny, what I do, like also you did very well, when someone joins the 1 hour of episode, we are there to coordinate emotion. I'm not here to talk. Now I'm talking because I'm invited to this podcast.
It's your spot.
But it's my spot. Right? When I'm doing my podcast, I'm a host. I'm asked, like, I have some good conversation in the beginning, but then I don't talk that much. I let the guest there to talk. And one thing I noticed, which is so funny, when I press record, the guest will shift in the way they are talking and the way their thought process fully would change. And like, oh, I'm being now recorded. To be careful. And this is something I didn't know that could happen in the beginning. Like if you put a camera on a human, and like I think you can.
You see a pattern after and
I see
before
a
when you
huge
click.
pattern. Yeah, you can. I think you can be
I
the
can
judge
relate.
that. Yeah, I didn't change after we recorded, so I'm still like laughing like the beginning. But that was something for sure. But then again, like product management is so different, right? Different people from different companies do it differently. No one is really wrong and no one is really right. Some people love the raw product ops. Some people hate the product ops. Some organization thinks the product ops will work. Some people are like, we already are so confused in the product world, why we need it. So I had both people on the podcast. I mean, that they loved it, they hate it. One of the things it really stand out for me was one thing Radhika Dutt said on the podcast, which was about vision driven versus sales driven, which we created an awesome clips. It reached 65,000 views on LinkedIn. It blew up, and it was a great example of Marvel in the year like in the 1980s. It was in the verge of bankruptcy, and what happened was The new CEO said that we have to have a long-term vision. So I started to build up these characters like Iron Man and then Captain America, and slowly by slowly, like features, they were being added to the story. And then we had the Avengers, which, think about it, like a massive product launch. What DC was doing, DC was sales driven, right? So they would look for a next blockbuster. They will have a new Batman and then do another reboot, and then new Batman and another reboot. And so they never could build the long-term vision. This is one of the best things I learned from podcasting. Also, you really have to be a good listener. You will have a guest on the show and they're like super smart, and you might even not have many questions to ask them, in terms of like, you cannot challenge them. You might not be able to really follow up with them. So it's a very interesting experience.
It's a very good dynamic that you have. Amir, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation. Before we wrap up, any place where people can find more about you?
Yeah, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always there. That's my only social platform. And make sure to check out the Product Founder podcast. We have a lot of great conversation, and we have a lot of amazing guests coming up soon in 2025.
Guys, stay tuned. Product Founder Podcast. Follow Amir, and for everyone else, don't forget also to follow Productized on LinkedIn and subscribe to the podcast for more great conversations. Thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.